Hi, everybody. This is Jan Romano. I'm from Mass Higher Metro North Career Center, and we're here to go over some PowerPoint basics and beyond. So today we're talking about making a presentation visually interesting. We're going to be using animation and transitions today, and looping as well, and running the slideshow. So we did part one, which were the basics of creating a slide, and now we're moving on to part two. And what are we going to learn today? Pretty much as I mentioned, some of the topics are going to be custom animation, and you can see that this is flying down from the top, and so that is custom animation, transitions, timings, looping, so looping the slideshow, letting it run continually, and allowing, let's say you're at a trade show, you have a large screen TV in your lobby of your company, and you want a presentation running, so this will allow you to set this all up so that it will run automatically. And that's what we're going to be covering today. So I'm going to take my webcam off for a second, and I'll come back in a little bit, and we're going to focus on PowerPoint. All right, so in the first video, I went over Visual Office Products, Introduces. We created these 3 slides, and now we want to make them a little bit more visually interesting. Why? Because when I run this slideshow right now, let me remind you that there are 4 buttons at the bottom right, and one of them is normal, and that's normal view that you're in when you created the slide. Slide sorter view lets you see all of your slides. There's only 3 of them, and we're going to be using slide sorter view today when we do our transitions. And then there is reading view as well as slideshow. So I'm going to click the slideshow right now, and I want you to notice that you see the whole slide and you see all the text on that slide. And maybe it would be a little bit more visually interesting if you had that text doing something like moving. Again, you don't want to annoy anyone. You don't want to have too much movement on a presentation because that can make somebody maybe even a little seasick, but you do want maybe some visual interest and keep the people that are watching the presentation engaged. And so again, all of this text is on my slide 2. Notice it says ergonomic furniture for conference rooms, for workstations, and for offices. And you know, you might be just talking about for conference rooms, and your readers are already, your people that are participating and they're watching, they're already reading the second and third bullet, maybe even several times while you're still talking on the first one. So sometimes it's worth animating so that you're only focusing on one thing at a time. Notice the ergonomic division, it's our new logo. Well, maybe it'd make a little bit better impact if it came up and spun around, or came in, zoomed in, and those are called animations. The other thing that I want you to notice is when I click the mouse, I'm done. And so the slideshow finishes. Well, I might want to loop the slideshow. So I might want to set up what we call some transitions, how we want one slide to move to the next, and how long we want each slide to stay in the screen. And then loop it so that it continually runs. So that's our goal today. This is slide sorter view. And if I double click on my first slide, I will go back to normal view. And what you want to do is you want to decide how you want your objects to move. And the first thing you do is you click on the object that you want to make move. And you would typically go to the animations tab, and now there's the animations here, but notice these are green stars. I also want you to notice there's an add animation button, and we have green and yellow and red as well. So what do those mean? And that's what I want to go over before I actually show you how to put the animation in. It'll make more sense if you can understand logically what it is that we want to do. So custom animation, you know, it's a set of effects that you can apply to your objects. And so your objects are going to move during your slideshow. And there are 4 types of animations. The first type of animation is an entrance effect, and I want you to notice that text came in from the left. It came into the slide. Yep, that's what an entrance effect is, how you want the object to animate when it enters into the slide. So that's the first kind of effect, we call it. That's a green effect. We'll talk about that in a minute. Now, an emphasis effect. you're going to see that that's yellow. You don't see it right now, but you will. But what is it? It's how you want the object to animate when it's on the slide. Watch when I click the mouse right now, you will see that that text animates while it's on the slide. It didn't come in and animate, it stayed on the slide and then animated. The second animation class is emphasis effects. The first one is entrance. You have to decide what kind of effect you want to use. There are actually 2 more, so let's look at the third one. This one is a motion effect. And oops, what happened here? Here we go. There's your motion path. Well, it just came onto the screen, right? But watch the little red car that's going to come up and go on a motion path. That motion path is a path that I drew, and I was able to draw it using motion path because it's how you want the object to move around the screen. And I decided I want that car to move around the screen. The next one and the last one is an exit effect. And so what that means is how you want the object to exit the slide. Now, not all objects you want to leave the slide. So you're going to use this not as frequently as the other effects. But watch when I click the mouse, it will go and slide out of here. And so that is what an exit effect is. So custom animation means make your objects move. So I'm going to go back to my presentation, and we're going to click, like I mentioned, on Vision Office Products, and we're going to decide how we want to make this move. So I'm going to use this Add Animation button. So I'm just going to click and click so I can get this back. There we go. So Add Animation. Green are entrance effects. So there are different types of effects, and there are more actually, but these are the most commonly used ones. Emphasis effects, remember we spoke about that, those are yellow, and there are the choices, and there are more. Exit effects, those are red, and then if I keep coming and scrolling down, I will see motion paths. And custom path allows me to draw the path that I want this to go on. So I'm going to come back up and use an entrance effect. And how do I want this to enter in? Maybe I want this to float in or split or do a shape or zoom. You know, when you're first learning and first trying these out, you really have to try them in order to see what they're going to do. But I like to use a split. And I want you to notice it's split from the left to the right. But when you use an animation, you also get to choose an effect options. Sometimes this button is not available depending on the animation that you choose, but I'm going to click on effect options. Now remember, we're still on the animations tab, effect options, and how do I want it to split? Do I want it to split in vertically, or how about out? Why don't I go back to effect options and say maybe I want to choose horizontally out so that it goes up. So again, there are choices. What did I choose? I chose that I wanted to do a split, and I chose what direction I wanted to do and go in. And the last choice is up here, start. How do I want this animation to start when I run the slideshow? I'm going to run the slideshow right now. I'm going to come down here to the bottom. I'm going to click. Notice I'm not going to see that because I left my choice as on click. And what that means is when at the right time that I want this to show up, it will show up when I click the mouse. Now, I'm going to hit the escape key and go back to my slide. Escape will stop the slideshow. So I go back to my slide, and remember, I'm going to show you a split, and I chose a horizontal out split, and I left it on mouse click. Well, I'm going to click this down arrow because there are choices. And the choices are, with any previous animation, do this object's animation, or after any previous animation. Well, I don't have any previous animation, so I really want you to understand that after and with really mean after the slide comes up on the screen when I run the slideshow, or with the slide. So I'm going to choose after. It gives it just a little millisecond of a delay. So I'm going to click after previous. And now when I run the slideshow, remember the button is down here at the bottom. When I run the slideshow, it automatically does the animation. Okay. All right. Now, How do I know that I actually animated? Well, I see this little salmon color, little peach color box here with a 0 in it. And what does that mean? Well, that means that I don't have to do any clicks to get this to animate when I run the slideshow. But more importantly, how did I animate this? I chose a split, right? Well, I'd like to see that I did that. And the way that you can do that is bring up what we call the animation pane. So we're on the animation tab. We're looking for a button in the animation pane right here. It's in the animation group. I'm going to click on animation pane, and up comes a little window pane over here on the right hand side. And I want you to notice this color here, this peach color matches this here. A green star means an entrance effect. And if I bring my mouse over to it, it will say entrance effect. In a sense, I'm doing a split after previous. And so I can see what animation I placed on this. Now, I'd like to animate our new ergonomic division. So I click on this text. I'm going to come up here to add animation. So every time I animate, I do the same 4 steps. First step is add animation. I decide on an animation. I think I'll choose zoom. I go to effect options. Now, I can zoom from the place of the object or from the center of the slide. Well, this object is actually almost in the center, so either one of these choices will be fine. Okay. Then I'm going to choose either on click so that I can wait for the right moment for our new ergonomic division to pop up, or I could choose after previous. And when I choose after previous, it means that I am going to animate our new ergonomic division, or it's going to animate, PowerPoint will animate it when I run the slideshow after Vision Office products. And I want you to notice over here on the right, I have 2 lines here. The first one goes along with Vision Office products, and that's an entrance effects and a split. And the second one, when I click on the second green star, that is for our new ergonomic division, and that's doing a zoom after previous. And let's test it. I'm going to run the slideshow. When I run the slideshow, these will animate. So it's not a huge distraction to the audience, but it gives some bit of visual interest to the audience. Now I'm going to hit escape and we'll animate one more thing, which will be this chair. Now, the chair has a white background, so I'm not real fond of animating it. You'll see what I mean in just a moment, but I'm going to animate it so you can see. And again, we do these same steps. Add animation. I think which is a green entrance effect. And I think I'll say I would like this to swivel with any previous animation. Instead of on click, I'll do with previous animation. I'll run the slideshow, and as I'm talking, this is what it will look like. And again, that background on that chair, to see that swivel with that background isn't really ideal, but I just wanted you to see it so that you could make that decision yourself as well. So maybe swiveling wouldn't be the best choice for that one, but I wanted you to be able to see it. So there's our first slide, and we have 3 animations, 3 entrance animations on 3 separate objects. When I click on Vision Office Products, I look over to the right. Here's a green star. This was an entrance with a split. When I click on our new ergonomic division, I come over here, I see another green star, and that's a zoom, an entrance effect after previous. And now I'm going to click on the chair, and that's the 3rd animation in this. And that was when I bring my mouse over, a little white tooltip pops up, and that was a swivel after or with previous animation. Okay. All right, I'm going to go to slide 2. On slide 2, I've decided that I want to animate these 3 lines of text. Well, let's review just a little bit before we move on. So there's entrance effects, emphasis effects, motion path, and exit. And what do we do first? Well, I always like to tell people to bring up the animation pane. And we brought it up after we did a couple of the animations so that you could see it. But in normal view, you bring up your animation pane, which sits on the right-hand side. And then each time you animate an object, you click on the animation, you click on what kind of animation you want. If it has an effect with it, you choose the effect options. You click on how to start when the animation is when the animation is going to start during the slideshow, and then you run the slideshow to see the animation. So let's go back to slide 2 and let's choose some animation. So I'm going to click on for conference rooms, and all 3 lines are in the same text box. You're going to be able to choose different animations if you highlight each line, but I'm going to just click, and whatever animation I choose will affect all 3 lines. So I'm going to follow the steps again, add animation off of the animations tab. This time I'm going to choose fly in. Now fly in, the default is it flies in from the bottom, which is pretty nice because that's coming up from the floor. That looks pretty good. But if I wanted to change that, I would go to Effect Options, and because it's a fly in, notice the choices I get. From the bottom, from the left, from the right, from the top. So let's say I choose from the left, and notice each line will come in from the left, which looks pretty good as well. Then I can decide how I want these to animate during the slideshow. So we did the how, which is the fly in, and now we're going to do the when, which is I'm going to leave it on click. If I'm giving a presentation, if I'm standing up there, I want to be able to click the mouse at the right moment. If I'm running this slideshow at a trade show or at a maybe on a big screen TV in a lobby, then I would have this running automatically without me clicking the mouse. So I'm going to click the slideshow button, and I want you to notice it says ergonomic furniture. It has the picture there, but there's no other text. Why? Because when I click the mouse, I'm going to see 1 line, and I'm going to talk about the furniture we have for the conference rooms, let's say. Then when I'm ready, I'll click the mouse and talk about for workstations. Then I can click the mouse and talk about for offices. And so each line has been animated, and I only had to animate once, but each line animates individually because they're all in the same text box. All right, I'm going to go back and go to my 3rd slide. So on my 3rd slide, I think I'm going to animate our new logo. And I'm going to come up to add animation, and you typically are using entrance effects. And remember, emphasis effects you use when you want our new logo to be seen, and then you want it to animate. So I kind of like that idea. When I'm giving this presentation, maybe I want them to see that we're going to talk about our new logo, and then maybe I want to choose one of these emphasis effects. And grow and shrink, let's say, is a good one. Spin is good. It just really depends on the type of text you have, or if it's an object. We used wave, used the example earlier, so I'm going to use wave again, and it is going to wave at me, and it's going to wave automatically. So I'm going to say after previous up here. I'm going to do a wave after previous. So that means that when I run the slideshow, it's automatically going to wave the text, our new logo. And notice on the right-hand side in the animation pane, because we're on slide 3, it shows me the animation for that slide and for just that object actually. So this object, our new logo, is the first title, and it is doing a wave after previous. All right, we're going to animate one more thing, which is, of course, this ergonomic division. To add animation, and I think I'm going to do let's see, grow and turn. Let's see what that looks like. Pretty interesting. And if I go to effect options, I can have it, really, there aren't any choices, any different choices really for me that will make a big difference. So I'll leave that there. But what I will do is I will leave that on click so that when I'm ready, I will bring that up. So let's see how this looks. I'm going to run the slideshow at the bottom right. Our new logo does a little wave, and now I'm going to click the mouse, and here comes the ergonomic division and logo that we're going to be using. And that ends the slideshow because this is our third slide, so I'm going to hit escape, and each one of these has animation. So let me review just a little bit. I click on slide 1. We animated, notice a 0 in this box, and a 0 means these were both set up to run without me clicking. When I click on Vision Office Products, I come over here to the right, and it says it's doing a split after previous. And that's an entrance effect because it's green. I click on our new ergonomic division. I come over here to the right, and it shows that it's an entrance effect, and I did a zoom for that one. And then I click on the chair, come over here to the right. Remember, this is your animation pane, and it shows, when I move over, it shows that it's a swivel, and it's with previous, so that it's automatically going to enter in and swivel. Slide 2, just a review. I'm going to click on for conference rooms, and we had each one of these lines fly in, and we left them on click so that we could control how long we wanted to talk about each bulleted item. On slide 3, our new logo was doing a wave. Our ergonomic division, I came over here. Remember, I left this on a click, and it's going to grow in turn. So I put animation on each one of these slides for the separate objects that are on each one of these slides, and that is custom animation. Now, when I run the slideshow, I might want this to run while I'm standing up there, and if I do, then I'm all set. I'm done, really. But if I want this presentation to show just a little bit more visual interest, I might want to choose a transition, and then if I want to automatically without me. So it's on a big screen TV, or it's at a trade show, it's in the beginning of a class, I might want to set up timings so this runs automatically. And that's what we're going to talk about next. So the title to this is Slide Transition. How to make one slide move to the next during the slideshow. And we're going to talk about the two terms, how and when. Transitions are the how. You're going to choose a transition to make each slide move. And there are many transitions. One of them is dissolve. Well, do you want the screen to dissolve and the next slide to come up? It depends on how you would like it to look. And there are many transitions: cut, fade, push, dissolve. There's quite a few choices, and we'll look at those. Then if you look at number 3 here, we're also going to talk about the when. The when a slide will move to the next slide. That's a timing. How much time you would like the slide to stay on the screen so the audience can read it, and then the slide will advance to the next slide after that. We're going to apply these transitions and timings to all of our slides, and then we'll run the slideshow. So we'll keep it simple. All right, let's go ahead and do that. First thing that I like to tell people is don't stay in normal view. You can, but the better view to go into is slide sorter view. And slide sorter view is going to show you each slide. And notice it says 1, 2, and 3, but there are no timings underneath each one of these slides, but eventually there will be. But what there is a little star. That wasn't there before, and it's now there because it's telling you visually that you have put some animation on a slide. And so if I click on this little star right here, I will see the animation. So it's a preview of the animation. But what my goal now is to go to the tab called Transitions. Transitions are how you want to make one slide move to the next. And so I'm going to click this down arrow. Transitions, there's quite a few of them. You could put a different transition on every slide, but it's really best to be consistent. Choose a transition that's not distracting. Choose a transition that goes well with your slide presentation. For example, curtains is a transition that might be interesting to use if you're using lots of photos or you want to present, the customer or the person of the year, that type of thing. There are so many, and the ones that are used most commonly are really checkerboard, blinds, dissolve, and then there's quite a few. Page curl is pretty interesting, peel. I mean, they're all quite fun, and what you would do is you would certainly try them out. But I want you to notice that there are some subtle, exciting, and dynamic ones, and just remember your audience and what will your audience prefer. So I think I'll choose, let's say, wipe. And you can see that's very subtle. And when I run the slideshow, you'll see that it comes up very gently like that. And when I click the mouse, you can barely see when I go to the next slide that, because it's so subtle. So if I decide I don't want that subtle of a choice, I can go back up and click the down arrow and make a change. And maybe I'll choose checkerboard. And you can see right away what checkerboard would look like. Okay? Now that's the first thing you do, is you choose the transition. And the second thing you do is you come over here to the right. Notice it says advance slide, and it means during the slideshow, how do you want the slides to advance? Well, then we know they're going to checkerboard, but when do we want them? So I always leave on mouse click as a backup, just in case. I always want to be able to click my mouse, but here is where you're going to set timings. You click the mouse in the box where it says after. You click on the zeros, and the zeros are going to be seconds, minutes, hours, how long you want the slide to stay on the screen. And I'm just going to choose 5 at this point, which means 5 seconds. And then notice apply to all. And what does apply to all mean? It means checkerboard and 5 seconds, apply it to all my slides. And when I click on apply to all, notice it says 5 and 5 and 5, and notice checkerboard is chosen. So you've set a transition as a checkerboard and a timing as 5 seconds for each slide. And you might think 5 seconds is going to be too quick. Well, watch this slideshow. I'm going to run the slideshow right here from slide sorter view. So I come down to the bottom and I click on slideshow. Up comes my slideshow. My animation is happening. I can record my voice as well. That would be a little bit more of an advanced feature. Notice for conference rooms, and I don't have to click my mouse because I set these timings. Notice it's going to checkerboard, and it's going to come and do the transition, the animation, and then it will transition to the next slide, and there's not a next slide, so we're done. Well, what if you wanted this to run the entire day? I'm going to show you how to loop it in just a moment. But let's review what we did for transitions. We clicked in slide sorter view. We clicked on the transitions tab. We went to select a transition. We advanced the slide and we typed in timings for the slide, and we decided on 5 seconds, and we applied it to all on step number 4. So let me go back to my presentation, and let's decide that slide 2 needs to have a little bit more than 5 seconds for someone to look at that and read that. So I'm going to come over here to the right again where it says advance slide. I'm going to click where it says 5, and maybe I'll make it 7. But I'm not going to click on apply to all. I'm just going to click on another slide, and I want you to notice this change to 7. So we're still keeping it checkerboard. Slide 1 is 5. I changed slide 2 by changing this to 7 seconds. I did not hit apply to all, so every other slide still stays at 5 seconds. Does that make sense? I hope so, because it is just a procedure that you're going to follow. You're going to choose the transition, decide on the timings, and maybe apply it to all, and then make some changes. Well, I want to loop this. I want to continue this. I want this to run all day. So what are we going to do next? And that is loop. Slideshow is the tab at the top that I'm going to go to. Set up show, which is set up the slideshow button right here. Click on that. And the only change that I'm going to make is right here. Loop continuously until somebody basically hits escape. I'm not going to change anything else. Notice I'm going to use the timings. I loop this continuously, and all I do is click OK. Now, nothing is on the screen to help me to know that I did that. So what I'm going to do is try it and see if it works. I'm going to go back to my first slide. I'm going to go to Slide Show and sit back and watch my slideshow. I've got my checkerboard. I've got my custom animation. 5 seconds. It's going to checkerboard to the next slide. Remember, this slide has some custom animation. I'm going to take each one of these bullets and bring them from the left, and this slide was going to stay for 7 seconds in checkerboard to our new logo, and this logo pops. Remember, this slide stays on for 5 seconds, and look, it loops back to the first slide again, and it will continually run slide by slide by slide for 5 seconds, 7 seconds, and 5 seconds, because that's the time to checkerboard, because that's the transition that I used, and it's going to continue to loop until I hit the escape key. And so that escape key stops the running of the slideshow. So what did we do here? We looped the slideshow. We clicked on the slideshow tab on the ribbon, and we clicked on the setup slideshow button. We clicked on continuously loop until somebody hits escape, basically, and we ran the slideshow. And that slideshow continually ran until we hit the escape on the keyboard to stop the looping of the slides. So now our presentation, I'm going to save it. So up here in the upper left-hand corner is my quick access toolbar. I could do file save or just save. And now I'm still in slide sorter view. I'm going to go back to normal view, so I can just double click on this first slide, and I have my animation pane on the right. I've set up my transitions. I've set up my animations. I've set up my slideshow so that it will run automatically, and I've saved it. And now I'm ready to give it to an audience for me to a trade show and let it run all day. So now, what happens when we run a slideshow and maybe we want to control it? Maybe we want to be able to go to the next slide or the previous slide, or maybe you're giving and somebody asks you to go back to a particular slide. These are choices that can be made when you're running the slideshow. So this is the last thing I'll show you in this series, which is part 2. So let me go back to this presentation, and I'm going to run the slideshow. And maybe you would like to pause this or stop this. Well, I can right click the mouse. Just remember, the audience sees this, so there's a keyboard way and a right mouse way. But when I click the right mouse, I get these choices. And I can pause this and click on pause, and I can leave this up here now for as long as I like and talk for as long as I want and pause this right here for whatever reason I'd like. Now I'm going to click the mouse. Remember, I don't know if you remember that when we did a transition, we said that we were going to leave the ability to click the mouse when we wanted to. So when I click the mouse, it will begin the slideshow once again. Now, somebody wants to go back to slide 1. I right click the mouse anywhere. So if I right click up here or right click over here, the menu will pop up. And notice it says see all slides. So I'm going to click right here on see all slides, and the screen changes and shows me all of my slides. And somebody wants me to go back to slide 1. So I'm going to go right here and click on slide 1, and I will be back in my presentation to slide 1. And then remember, it stays on the screen for 5 seconds and goes again to slide 2. That's why I paused it. Well, what if I wanted to right click right here before the Our New Logo, because somebody again wants to go back to slide 1 or 2. Remember, it's See All Slides. The other thing that I can do is I can take the screen and turn it black or white. I prefer to turn it black because what it does, just like you see on the screen, is it blackens the screen just in case I'm going to take a break or just in case I'm going to want to stop and I don't want anyone seeing the background. Maybe I don't want them reading the slide that I'm on because I would like them to focus on what I'm saying. So I can change the screen to a black or white screen. Remember, I can pause the screen. Remember, I can go back and see whatever slides I want. You can also choose how to change your pointer. So if I choose pointer options and maybe I want to highlight something, so I'll click on highlight and I'll highlight. Maybe I want to right click and I want to change the pointer to a laser pointer. And then I'll have a laser pointer which I can move around. All right? So right clicking will bring up these controls that allows me to control my PowerPoint presentation. And I'm going to hit escape. Okay, and here I go. So what I just did was discarded the highlighting, so that's called an annotation. So remember that I highlighted something with the yellow highlighter and I decided when I hit escape that I don't really want to keep that highlighting with my PowerPoint presentation. That was just for when I gave the show, so I deleted those. So let me go back here for a moment and remind you that you can right click while running the slideshow. You can advance slides, go to a particular slide, change the pointer, pause the slideshow. And then there are some keyboard shortcuts, and some people like to use the keyboard shortcuts, and you can Google these as well. But you can use the B for a black screen, you can use the B on the keyboard, you can use P to go back to a previous slide, you can use N to advance the slide, and there's a few others there as well. All right, so let me go back here and take a look at this PowerPoint presentation. Remember, we have our animation pane. Remember, we went to slide sorter view and we added in timings and transitions. Remember, we went and looped our slideshow setup show and looped it so that it would continually run. And we ran the slideshow and it continually ran with our checkerboard transition and our 5 seconds timings, and the second slide stays on for 7 seconds. So hopefully that was something that you can practice and understand, and hopefully we made it simple for you. And we appreciate the time you spent today with us. We just want to make sure that you know that it's custom animation, transitions, timings, loopings, and running the slideshow. Those are adding to your presentation to make it visually interesting and control the presentation. And again, thank you very much. I'm going to bring my webcam back to personally thank you. And we want you to be able to contact us if you need to. We want you to be able to go to our website. So here is the centers, Cambridge, Chelsea, and Woburn, and our website. We also have a customer fill in the blank sheet where you can ask a question and we'll get back to you with that as well. So I hope you've enjoyed this piece of PowerPoint basics and beyond, and learning custom animation, transitions, and looping. And I'll see you next time for adding in music and video into a PowerPoint presentation. Thanks.